Pistons fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption, they lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to, not eligible for Social Security. So the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and then throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I haven't opened the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100 and I'm 81 years old and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough, they adapt, but only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not gonna let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or wherever. We're gonna fight to the bitter end. Detroit gonna survive.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pacman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pacman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Hey, what do you say, everybody? Happy MLK Day here this Monday, January 19, on Free Speech TV and on our worldwide video stream, TawkrTV, TAWKR-TV, of course. Good to see you. No better way to celebrate Martin Luther King Day than to go out and see the movie Selma. I saw it yesterday. It is fantastic. One of the best movies I've ever seen. Very, very powerful, very moving. An incredible portrayal of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And his fellow acolytes there in the civil rights movement, even if it is unfair to LBJ in parts. In the end, LBJ, President Johnson, comes across as a hero of the civil rights movement, which he, in fact, is. The Voting Rights Act would not have happened without Martin Luther King Jr., and it would not have happened without Lyndon Baines Johnson either. Go see the movie. It is incredible. Washington, buzzing today with anticipation for the State of the Union address tomorrow evening. President Obama, among other things, will announce a total reshuffling of the tax code, turning it upside down. In fact, raising taxes on the very wealthiest of Americans in order to provide substantial tax breaks for middle-class Americans, challenging Republicans in Congress to stand up and show who they really are for, the very wealthy or the 99% of Americans who are not so wealthy. The race for the Republican nomination in 2016 seems to be getting more crowded by the day. Jeb Bush is coming to Washington this week to shake the money tree. Mitt Romney spoke to Republican leaders in San Diego over the weekend, indicated for sure he's going. And now Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina says he's thinking about it. Oh, my God. Give us a call. Talk about all the above at 866-55-PRESS. Here we go on a big Monday show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody can look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's Martin Luther King Day, 2015. Why am I working? Hey, hello, everybody. Happy MLK Day. We are here live in our nation's capital, The Bill Press Show, and good to join you. I know most of you not federal employees and not state employees don't have the day off. We are here with you to bring you up to date on all the news of the day, and there's a lot of it as we start this new week, a lot of it happening over the weekend. So we'll tell you what's going on, and you tell us what it all means to you. We'll take a look at the big events here in Washington, D.C., around the country and around the globe. You head to the phones or to Twitter or to Facebook and let us know your reaction to all of it. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. On Twitter, you can send us your comments at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Hope you enjoyed the weekend. A lot of great football yesterday, leading up to the Super Bowl. I can't complain about that, although I guess the losing teams can complain, or the fans of the losing teams can complain.
Hug a Packer fan today.
Oh, man.
They had a rough day yesterday.
That's right,
Holy
man.
cow.
Right. If you are a Packer fan, you were not so happy. The Colts were even less happy, perhaps, huh?
Yeah.
Not a chance.
At least it wasn't a total heartbreak for them, right? I mean, they just got blown away beginning to end.
Pretty one-sided.
Packer fan thought they were going to win that game.
But there's a lot of good football, a lot of good politics, a lot of good policy stuff over the weekend. Again, we'll wrap it all up for you with a bow and tell you all about it. 866-55-PRESS, again, that toll-free number. Team Press here in place, every last one of us, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, hey. And Alicia Cruz there on the phones, ready to take your calls. 866-55-PRESS, Cyprian Bolding. He's here early, lights on, cameras rolling. We are live on Free Speech TV and worldwide, hello, on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And man, how about the Pope wrapping up his visit to Asia, to Sri Lanka, and then to the Philippines? 6 million people turned out for Mass celebrated by the Pope, a certainly world record. And the Pope said that he was particularly happy while he was there, speaking in English, to meet so many young people in the Philippines.
During my visit to the Philippines, I wanted, in a particular way, to meet with young people, to listen to you and to talk with you. I want to express the love and the hopes of the church for you.
There it is. It's not bad in English.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, you don't even need a translator. I mean, we've had before, right, when we've heard Pope speaking and he said, what the hell were they saying?
Right.
No idea. But more importantly, the Pope had said something not only about young people, but about women. On his last day, which really, again, everywhere this guy goes, he makes more and more news, and we love him more and more. He said it was so important that the church, this is the church, right, that won't allow women to be ordained. This is a church that still treats women as second-class citizens. So the Pope said, if so important to include women in decision-making, for the church to include women in decision-making, he said, quote, women have much to tell us in today's society. Sometimes we're too macho, and we don't leave enough room for women. Women should be included, said the Pope, because they are able to, quote, see things with different eyes than men. Women, he says, women are able to ask questions that men can't even understand.
I love this Pope.
He's right.
He is so right. He is so right.
There are just some jobs that women are better at doing.
So you know what he ought to do? Come on, do it, Pope. Let the priests get married and let women become priests. And you know what? He could do this. To be a cardinal of the church, you don't have to be a priest even. No Pope, like in our time, has done it. They used to name their nephews or their boyfriends or whatever, but not now. But he could appoint a couple of women as cardinals of the church.
If anybody was going to.
That would
exactly.
Be, oh, man. I'm telling you. Great. That would be so great. Yeah. If anybody could do it or would do it, he would indeed.
Pope.
All right. Hey, even on a big holiday here, we have rounded up a good cast of characters today. Reporters in from Politico, from The Hill, from the Daily Beast, and one of the vice presidents of the Center for American one of the leading economists for the Center for American Progress, all in studio with us. And it's a big weekend, rainy day yesterday. Good day to go out and see a movie. I'll tell you all about the one I saw, but first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. You mentioned football. We will start right there. We know who's playing in the Super Bowl. It will be the Seattle Seahawks taking on the New England Patriots. Yesterday's game saw the Patriots blowing the Colts out of the water. 45-7 was the final score, but the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks, that was a nail-biter.
Overtime.
Seattle had a terrible, terrible game up until the last maybe 5 minutes when they really turned it on. They were down 16-0.
Whoa.
And then came back, scored a touchdown, kicked an onside kick, recovered it, threw another touchdown, or ran for another touchdown. Green Bay answered with a field goal, sent it to overtime, but the Seahawks bombed the end zone, ended the game on a touchdown. Russell Wilson was redeemed. 28-22 was the final score there. It was in Seattle, and Seattle fans were so sure that they were going to lose, a lot of them left the stadium.
Oh, no.
And so when they heard it went back to overtime, they came running back, but you can't get back into the stadium.
No.
So they had to stand outside and watch on the screens or listen.
Serves them right.
Yeah, I agree.
Serves them right. I'm surprised. I thought the Seattle fans were more loyal than that.
That's their whole thing. The 12th man. They're loyal fans. But they took off. There was still some. It was a long shot. A big long shot for them to win. But
wasn't it 15 points in 44 seconds?
It was incredible.
Whoa,
no.
Exactly. That's how much it flipped.
Scored, and then they kicked that onside kick. And there's this Green Bay Packer who's forever going to have this haunt him. Went up to catch the ball, had it in his hand, and missed it. And so once that happens, it's anybody's ball. So Seattle grabs it, it's their ball.
Yeah.
It was crazy game. I mean, Green Bay Packers were absolutely going to win that game. So they're having a pretty rough morning,
they didn't.
I'm sure. Yeah. But they didn't. You got to finish it. I'm sure you've probably seen, if you've gone into a liquor store, you've seen these Skinny Girl margaritas. These are the product.
Oh, yes.
You see these Skinny Girl margaritas?
Yeah, I like them.
All right. My wife and her friends drink these Skinny Girl margaritas.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So it's a margarita mix, and it's lower in calories, and it still gets you drunk.
Okay.
Right? And look, it's very, very popular. I don't drink it. I think it's awful. But it's very popular. It's the brainchild of Bethany Frankel, who's a reality star, reality TV show star. But she has a new idea. She's going to launch Skinny Girl marijuana.
No way.
They say that she and some of her business partners have found a strain of marijuana that doesn't give you the munchies.
Oh, therefore you don't get fat.
Therefore you don't eat a bunch of garbage when you're high, and then you don't get fat. Stay tuned. She's going to roll it out in Colorado.
Who wants to smoke marijuana without getting the munchies?
That's the best part.
No.
That's part of the fun. And Wendy's drive-through restaurant, fast food chain, they will no longer offer soda on its kids' meals. So if you go through and you order a kids' meals, you can no longer get soda on it. They have kept Frosties on the menu.
Oh.
But you could get milk, or you could get water, you could get juice, but they say that sodas are just so bad, they're not going to allow them with their children's meals. You could order a separate soda. But like you used to get a kid's meal that came with a burger and apple slices and fries, and you could get a soda with it. No longer.
Well, I mean, who's McDonald's kidding? Right?
This is Wendy's. This is Wendy's.
Oh, this is Wendy's. Well, who are they kidding?
Yeah, right.
No, come on. All right. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Peter. Catching up with the Oscar nominations and the latest movies over the weekend. I saw 2 of them, by the way.
Look at you.
Yeah, how about it? Because I mentioned, as a member of SAG-AFTRA, I got in a lot of the movies DVDs at home. So Carol and I, Friday night, watched first The Imitation Game.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's really, really good. It's an incredible story. And it's a story. I forget the guy who plays the lead.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
That's it. I know.
How could you forget a name like that?
Exactly. Benedict Cumberbatch plays Alan Turing, who is this kind of weird, nerdy mathematician that the Brits hire to crack the code called the Enigma that the Germans used to send out all the instructions on every movement during the war, whether it was the U-boats or the fighter planes or the bombers or the troops on the ground. The orders went out from Berlin through this Enigma. And the Brits hired this guy, crazy mathematician, who cracked the code. He cracked it with his little team. They cracked the code. They win the war.
Yeah.
They win the war for the Allies, and he's rewarded. They arrest him after the war because he's gay.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He is one of history's most overlooked figures.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. That's his. Okay. Hey, thanks a lot. You're under arrest. Yeah. It's an incredible story. Very, very well told. But the big prize of the weekend, Carol and I, despite all my hesitation about seeing it, we went to see Selma yesterday, and I got to tell you, I am so glad I did. My advice to you today is don't walk, run to the nearest theater and see Selma as soon as you can. Do it today. Take your friends. It is a phenomenal movie, one of the most moving and powerful movies that I've ever seen. Really.
Wow.
And I'd say hands down the best picture of the year. And the fact that David Oyelowo was not nominated for Best Actor is just a disgrace. Shame on Hollywood. Shame on his phenomenal performance. But it's at so many levels. First, it's a whole story, if you will, of one big chapter in the civil rights movement, which was the march from Selma to Montgomery and how it all came about. So you see one thing that I've never seen before. You see the inside of the civil rights movement. So you see all this. There was a lot of tension between Martin Luther King's people. Even they didn't all agree on what the strategy ought to be. And then you had they were SCLC, right, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Then you had SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, with John Lewis and his buddy, whoever he was, who were already there on the ground in Selma. And then you had Malcolm X, who's a totally different philosophy, and they're all together trying to figure out what's the best strategy here. So among themselves, there's all this division and tension. And then you've got the relationship, of course, with Martin Luther King and LBJ, right? But first of all, I got the portrayal of Martin Luther King. He is such an incredible leader, and so calm when he's got to be, so passionate when he has to be, just so thoughtful. He comes across. Ann Hornaday, our friend who does our movie review, she says that David Oyelowo doesn't play Martin Luther King. He channels Martin Luther King Jr.
Wow, man.
Which he really does. It's a phenomenal performance. Hands down, he ought to be to get the Best Actor of the Year. And then, of course, the controversy about the LBJ thing, and they do get it wrong. I mean, LBJ was not as irascible and as negative and as off-putting. Historians have shown us that and confirmed as the movie portrays him. And what I didn't understand is why she needed to paint LBJ as a villain. There are two other villains in the movie who are real ugly, and you hate them, and you should hate them. J. Edgar Hoover. The FBI, I didn't realize, the FBI was, tapping all their phones. We know they were putting monitors in hotel rooms where MLK stayed. And they were calling his home, had people calling his home, calling his wife, and just trying. And J. Edgar Hoover said this is one of their strategies, trying to break up his marriage as a way of busting his leadership. I mean, they were just really, really doing ugly, ugly stuff. And George Wallace, same way. I mean, George Wallace, LBJ calls him in the White House finally toward the end and says, George, look, you can end this right now by just letting these people register to vote. Under the Constitution, they've got a right to register to vote. And Wallace says, oh, yeah, of course I do. That's the law. And Johnson says, well, then let them register to vote. And George says, I don't control the county registrar of voters.
That's one of the sickest things about Wallace is he didn't even believe what he was putting out there.
Right. Yeah. So you got two villains, George Wallace. And in the end, I have to say, LBJ comes across. He comes around, which he did. He goes to Congress, and he challenges Congress to pass the Voting Rights Act, and he signed it into law. So he does, in the end, come across as a real hero of the civil rights movement, which he was and is. No need to portray him otherwise. Yesterday, they celebrated the 50th anniversary of the march in Selma, and celebrated the time. That was 5 days. They finally marched after that first bloody battle, not a battle, just a beating up on the marchers on the first time they tried to cross, where John Lewis was so badly injured. But then Martin Luther King finally leads them from Selma to Montgomery. He gets to Montgomery and gives that famous speech on the steps of the U.S. Capitol.
Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men? I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, yes, sir, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth crushed earth will rise again. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. Yes, sir. Because no lie can live forever. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. How long? Because you shall reap what you sow. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, the cadence is just amazing. Yeah, indeed. Amazing movie. It ended, and the whole theater burst out into applause where I saw it yesterday. Have you seen the movie yet? If not, what do you think about the controversy? You're going to go see it? You must. Let's talk about it here on this MLK Day 2015. 866-55-PRESS. You know the toll-free number. I want to hear from you.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash,
cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Talking about Selma. By the way, Oprah plays a great role in Selma, the role of Annie Lee Cooper, who tested the voter registration system and was turned away. Let's say a quick hello here to Robert down in Lawrence, South Carolina. Hey, Robert.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
My comment for the day is that in my day that the blacks in the South were probably the most law-abiding citizens in the country.
You know what? You're probably right. I hear your...
Who the hell showed up at your house this time of day? Is that your doorbell,
is that the doorbell
clock?
or is that the alarm going off there in the background?
Oh, my clock is not exactly on time.
Okay, I guess not. Right. No. You know what? Absolutely, Robert. That's one thing that comes across very, very much in the person of Martin Luther King Jr. Because again, there was division. There was division among their ranks about how far they should go. There's one incredible scene where Andy Young, a guy says he's going to go home and get his gun, and Andy Young just jumps all over him and says, "What the hell are you doing? That's not who we are." Selma, go see it today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
What do you know? It's 33 minutes after the hour. Here we go on this Monday, January 19, MLK Day. It is The Bill Press Show. We are brought to you today by the United Steelworkers and their great champion fighter, international president, Leo Gerard. The United Steelworkers, North America's largest industrial union, representing 1.2 million active and retired members, trying to rebuild America's manufacturing base and doing a good job. We salute them all. Check out their website and check out the website for more about their good work at usw.org. I've been talking about the movie Selma, nominated for Best Picture. I think it ought to win Best Picture hands down, and I've seen maybe 5 of the pictures nominated so far. I'm getting there. Certainly David Oyelowo should have been nominated for Best Actor. It's a phenomenal movie, very, very, very moving. And even though we kind of know the story of the march, and I marched across that bridge, we kind of know the story, but you don't really know it until you see it on the big screen. It's wonderful. Just one little footnote before we move on. The centerpiece, of course, of the film is the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I didn't realize this, and it's not in the movie, but Carol mentioned this to me, and I looked it up last night, and sure enough, Edmund Pettus Bridge is named after Edmund Winston Pettus, who is a brigadier general in the Confederate Army, a former U.S. Senator from Alabama, and former Grand Dragon of the Alabama Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, no.
And they have not renamed the bridge. They have not changed the name of the bridge. Here it is, right there in Selma, connecting across that, whatever the river there is, and the famous bridge, and it's still named after a leader of the KKK.
Good grief.
Isn't that disgusting?
It's not surprising, but disgusting.
I think it says a lot about Alabama.
Yeah.
I think it says a lot about the Old South.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it says a lot about the rhetoric we hear about, no, man, we put all that behind us.
Yeah, racism is dead.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's not. They ought to bury the name of that bridge once and for all. Maybe they could name it the John Lewis
You know what? That would be great.
Yeah, name it the John Lewis
That would
Bridge.
be amazing.
And by the way, knowing Congressman Lewis and seeing him portrayed as a young, 18, 19-year-old, I mean, it's just, everybody applauded in the theater, when he comes on the screen.
Nice.
He doesn't come on the screen as he is today, but
Right.
just the young John Lewis, just because he's such a legend. He's such a great man. So anyhow, can't tell you enough about the movie. Back on the silly front over the weekend, the race for president on the Republican side, it's getting more and more crowded every day, man. They're going to have to hire like 6 Greyhound buses just to handle the candidates and get them from debate to debate. He is back in all of his glory. Mitt Romney in San Diego, appearing to the Republican National Committee and their winter meeting on the deck of the Midway aircraft carrier. And he says, yep, sure enough, I'm in it, and I'm in it well, he didn't say I'm in it, but I'm certainly serious about looking at running again, and this time we can win.
We can win in 2016 as a party, in the House, in the Senate, and in the White House.
Now, he says the big question is, okay, what's your wife think about this, Mitt? Because remember, at one time, not so long ago, last year, Ann Romney was asking, she said, no, that's over, it's done, that's behind us, move on. Well, Mitt?
Most frequently asked question I get is, what does Ann think about all this? And she believes that people get better with experience.
Oh, man.
And heaven knows I have experience running for president.
Yo, this is embarrassing.
Ha ha. Boy, he's gotten a lot better on the stuff, man.
This is embarrassing.
Oh, he's just, yeah. God, it is embarrassing. I mean, the guy can't pull up a
cringing listening to this.
Oh, I know. Get ready for it. You're going to hear a lot more of him. And he says, yep, now I got 3 things I want to do. 3 things I want to do. Unlike Rick Perry, he could remember all 3.
We have to make the world safer.
Oh.
Second, we have to make sure and provide opportunity for all Americans, regardless of the neighborhood they live in. And finally, we have to lift people out of poverty.
He talks about lifting people out of poverty. In fact, he said in his speech, of the last 4 years or 5 years, 6 years, whatever, under President Obama, the problem is the rich got richer and the poor got poorer. He says that. Mr. Billionaire Mitt Romney with his car elevator in La Jolla and the 47%er, right?
Good grief.
God. Yeah.
Good grief.
Oh, who does he think he is kidding?
So bad.
Man, I'm telling you. And the Romneys, meanwhile, over the weekend, they welcomed their another grandchild. Yeah, they're getting up there. 23. This was number 23.
Grief.
Again, I bet he can't remember all their names. If I were moderator in one of the debates, Republican debates, that's the first question I would ask.
Yeah, can you name all your grandkids? Let's see, there's Ben, and Katie, Lamangelo, Orangelo, Cubert.
Yeah. Back to the movie in just a second. There's an incredible scene where Oprah, playing Annie Lee Cooper, comes up to register, and she puts in her form, and she says everything's complete, and the a-hole white guy at the registrar says it's complete when I say it's complete. Now, recite the preamble to the Constitution of the United States.
Jeez.
And she does.
Yeah.
And she does. She's no dummy. She does. And then he just interrupts her because he realizes that she's got that down. He says, how many county judges are there in the state of Alabama? And she says, 67. And then he says, name them.
Oh, come on.
Oh, yeah. Jesus. Yeah. That's what that. And then, of course, he stamps. Yeah. Denied. Anyhow. Well, back to politics 46. So there's Mitt Romney, right? Now, you won't believe this one. Remember last week, John McCain was asked about whether he would support Mitt Romney, and McCain says, well, I don't know. I got to keep my powder dry because my illegitimate son, Lindsey Graham from South Carolina, is thinking about running too. Really? None of us knew that. Chuck, he was on with Meet the Press with Chuck Todd yesterday, and Chuck said, what about this illegitimate son question? Are you really serious?
We're not polling, but we set up a testing the waters committee under the IRS code that would allow me to look beyond South Carolina as to whether or not a guy like Lindsey Graham has a viable path. But the good news is, I guess I'm in John's will, and I can get part of the estate. But I don't know where this will go, but I am definitely going to look at it.
All right.
I think the world is falling apart, and I've been more right than wrong when it comes to foreign policy, but we'll see.
Lindsey, I can tell you where it's going to go. It's not going to go anywhere.
Who's asking for Lindsey Graham?
Yeah, right.
Who's out there calling for him? Also, bonus points for referring to yourself in the third person.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We're going to see if there's room for someone like Lindsey Graham in this race. Get out of here. Come on.
I've been more right than wrong.
I've been more right than wrong.
Yeah. He was right about the war in Iraq, okay?
You just take a look at my record.
You can go on and on. I mean, come on. You know, it just goes to their head, right? These guys. Do we have that other Lindsey?
Yeah, this is back from October of last year.
Yeah, this is how ready for prime time he is, right? When he was talking to this all men's group.
Yeah.
Down, was it Columbia?
It was in Charleston.
No, it was in in Charleston.
Yes, sir.
And he was asked about running for president. He says, "I'll tell you one thing: if I do, you white guys are going to love it."
If I get to be president, white men who are in male-only clubs are going to do great in my presidency.
White men who belong to male-only clubs.
Some of my favorite people.
They'll do great in my presidency. Okay, so Mitt was out there, Lindsey Graham, and now Mike Huckabee. He's getting a little, his nose is a little out of joint because people are talking about everybody else but him. And he said, "Hey, wait a minute. Here, look at me. Remember, I left Fox News. I didn't do that for nothing."
Well, I think, Martha, the fact that I left the Fox gig, which was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me, to leave that. I didn't do it just because I was tired of going to New York every week. So I think there's a very strong likelihood that sometime later in the spring, which has always been my timetable, I'll make some kind of declaration and clearly state my intentions. I'll put it that way.
Oh, we're so excited about that. So, join the club, right?
Yeah. But like of all these people that are out there now, Bill, do any of those names worry you at all? Seriously.
Are you kidding? I'm gleeful. The thought about running against any of them, gleeful. Totally. Just, Mitt Romney, please. Bring him on. 866-55-PRESS. What do you think? I'll ask you the question Peter asked me. Any of them scare the hell out of you? Mitt Romney, Lindsey Graham, Mike Huckabee.
You're going to take it all the way to the White House.
Ben Carson. I mean, the list goes on and on. Oh, wind it up. Let's talk about it. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 12 minutes now before the top of the hour. On Monday, January 19, MLK Day. If you've got the day off, enjoy. If you don't, we're here with you either way. And don't feel, too lonely because we're working, right?
Yeah.
Why isn't everybody else?
That's right. We had to get up.
Yeah, exactly. Lots to talk about today. Don't forget your calls. Welcome at 866-55-PRESS. On Friday, after the C-SPAN panel, which I did over at the Washington Center, great institution, by the way, here in Washington, where students come from campuses all over the country for like a 2 or 3 week intensive seminar at the Washington Center. I'd never been in front of them before, but there are about 160 students, and they were really, really sharp. We had a very good panel, moderated by Rick Klein from ABC News.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Did a really good job.
Cool.
But after that, I went down over to the White House and was there for the joint news conference between David Cameron and President Obama. Unusual in the sense that usually when and I always try to go to these joint news conferences with world leaders. Usually we have to have our headphones because simultaneous translation. Yeah. The questions go in the other language, to whatever. With Cameron, of course, there were no headphones at all. Everybody was speaking for the most part, as David Cameron said. For the most part, they speak the same language.
Yeah.
The two of them are actually pretty close, and it became known to the world how close they are, even before Cameron met with Obama, and they had dinner. Remember, Thursday night, and then the joint news conference was Friday. But Cameron the Prime Minister gave an interview with one British outlet where he said. Yeah, we're so close that sometimes he calls me bro.
Bro. Yeah. Bro.
He said usually it's David and Barack, but sometimes he calls me bro. But he didn't say he had a nickname for. He said he did not have a nickname for Obama. He didn't call him bro. But bro,
you're down at the
Obama.
White House. I mean, if the president calls on you for a question, you call him bro.
No,
What's up, bro?
What's up, bro?
What's up, bro? I got a quick question.
Yeah, right. Okay. But they did talk a lot, as we thought they would, a lot about cybersecurity. Of course, this was just in the wake of the Paris attacks. They pledged their solidarity again with France, indicated they're working very closely together. And on this question of cybersecurity, the president, first of all, made it clear, and we knew this, but he emphasized how closely the United States and the UK work on this issue.
Given the urgent and growing danger of cyber threats, we decided to expand our cooperation on cybersecurity to protect our critical infrastructure, our businesses, and the privacy of our people.
And the president said we have the same goal. This is why we need to be the best, if you will, on this technology.
If an al-Qaeda affiliate is operating in Great Britain or in the United States, that we can try to prevent real tragedy. And I think the companies want to see that as well.
So the question came up really to both of them, particularly to David Cameron. So you want total access to all the information online, but at the same time, you want to protect the privacy of your citizens. Aren't these two goals kind of in direct conflict? How can you have access to everything and leave us any privacy left? And Cameron made it clear that when it comes to these terrorist organizations, he doesn't want them to have any little zone of privacy.
As technology develops, as the world moves on, we should try to avoid the safe havens that could otherwise be created for terrorists to talk to each other. That's the goal that I think is so important.
And that's the rub, right? You can certainly see you don't want any safe haven for members of these Al-Qaeda-related organizations or terrorist organizations, right? At the same time, I want a safe haven. You want a safe haven.
Sure.
All of us want a safe haven for our conversations with our friends or family or whatever. We don't want that. We don't want people snooping into that. So that's the challenge with this cybersecurity, the challenge facing President Obama, facing Prime Minister Cameron, facing the United States Congress as they deal with that, facing every country on the planet right now. We need as much intelligence as we can get. At the same time, somehow in the middle of all of that, we have to find a way to keep some shred of privacy. It is, again, Martin Luther King Day, Monday, January 19th. Good to have you with us here on The Bill Press Show.
This is The Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. you start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
You bet. If The Nation says it must be correct. Absolutely. In the next hour, we'll talk State of the Union with Justin Sink, and we'll talk the Supreme Court's big decision on gay marriage with Josh Gerstein from Politico. Peter.
Speaking of State of the Union, we found out one celebrity guest who's going to be there tomorrow night. She's going to be a guest of Congressman Earl Blumenauer, Cheryl Strayed, the author who wrote the book Wild, the movie that Reese Witherspoon is in. She's going to be joining him at the State of the Union.
Well, she'll be in the balcony and he'll be on the floor.
Right.
Yeah, but
she's going to be his guest, I guess.
Now, the question is with Earl Blumenauer, will she have to get there by bicycle?
Good question.
You know, right? Remember when he came in studio one time in his he was
wearing his bike clothes.
Wears bike clothes, right? I'll tell you. Right. I hope she's ready for it, man. A bicycle built for two. How about that? All right. Hour number 2 coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, what do you say, everybody? Happy MLK Day here this Monday, January 19. On Free Speech TV and on our worldwide video stream, TawkrTV, TAWKR-TV, of course. Good to see you. No better way to celebrate Martin Luther King Day than to go out and see the movie Selma. I saw it yesterday. It is fantastic. One of the best movies I've ever seen. Very, very powerful, very moving, an incredible portrayal of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and his fellow acolytes there in the civil rights movement, even if it is unfair to LBJ in parts. In the end, LBJ, President Johnson, comes across as a hero of the civil rights movement, which he, in fact, is. The Voting Rights Act would not have happened without Martin Luther King Jr., and it would not have happened without Lyndon Baines Johnson either. Go see the movie. It is incredible. Washington, buzzing today with anticipation for the State of the Union address tomorrow evening. President Obama, among other things, will announce a total reshuffling of the tax code, turning it upside down. In fact, raising taxes on the very wealthiest of Americans in order to provide substantial tax breaks for middle-class Americans, challenging Republicans in Congress to stand up and show who they really are for, the very wealthy or the 99% of Americans who are not so wealthy. The race for the Republican nomination in 2016 seems to be getting more crowded by the day. Jeb Bush is coming to Washington this week to shake the money tree. Mitt Romney spoke to Republican leaders in San Diego over the weekend, indicated for sure he's going. And now Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina says he's thinking about it. Oh, my God. Give us a call. Talk about all the above at 866-55-PRESS. Here we go on a big Monday show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is Martin Luther King Day today, Monday, January 19. My advice, celebrate MLK Day by going out to see the movie Selma. Hey, hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome. Good to see you on this Monday. You're looking good. I can tell you had a lot of good football over the weekend. Enjoyed those two big games yesterday. We've got the day covered for you here with all the news happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. There's a lot going on, lots to talk about. So whether you've got the day off or not, we'll bring you up to date and look forward to hearing from you at 866-55-PRESS on your opinion on the news of the day. We're here in Washington, D.C. Congress still out of town today. Federal government's shut down to celebrate Martin Luther King holiday. But we're on the job and in our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., reaching out to you all across this great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station. Great to see you in Radio Land. And also booming out to you simulcast on Free Speech TV, Dish Network or DirecTV, if you got that satellite dish. Worldwide, on your iPad, your iPhone, your desktop, or whatever, we're there with our video stream at YouTube, on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. And tune in and meet the entire team, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello.
Happy Monday, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Here we go. Alicia Cruz. Got the phones covered, 866-55-PRESS. She's waiting for your calls. And Cyprian Balding with the video cameras going and humming right along. If you see us on Free Speech or TawkrTV, thanks to Cyprian. Well, we mentioned in the last hour that Mitt Romney has, after saying, no, I've done it, I've got it out of my system, he's decided, no, he doesn't have, he still really, really, really wants to be president. So he's really, really serious about running again. He spoke to the members of the Republican National Committee at their winter meeting in San Diego over the weekend. But as David Letterman pointed out Friday night, his possible re-entry in the race, hasn't even convinced all of his former supporters that this is a good idea.
Remember last time Mitt Romney ran for president, a guy in Indiana put a big Mitt Romney tattoo on his face?
Oh. Yes, I do. Right.
Yeah, well, the tattoo Mitt Romney guy says he won't vote for Mitt Romney now. So, good luck, Mitt. You don't even have the moron vote. Too bad.
That's pretty bad. That's bad with a guy with a tattoo on his forehead, right? Mm-mm. Yeah, I got my tattoo, but I'm not going to vote for him.
Yeah.
Right.
Jesus.
Yeah. All right. It's going to be a long hill to climb. High hill to climb. Yes, indeed. We're going to start off the top of this hour with Josh Gerstein on the big Supreme Court decision about same-sex marriage last week. Justin Sink from The Hill will join us at the half. And then the next hour, Aswin Subsang from The Daily Beast and Michael Madowitz from the Center for American Progress. All of that. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. We go to Downey, California.
Downey,
area I'm sure you're very familiar with, because that is the place that the world's first Taco Bell currently stands. And bad news, if you're a fan of the world's first Taco Bell, it is in danger of being demolished. They're saying they're going to take it down. They're going to tear it down. Nobody's using it anymore.
They're not going to make it a national shrine.
Well, a Downey
but the first McDonald's is in the Inland Empire too.
Is that right?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
oh,
which is where Downey is. But anyway,
what a distinction!
Right.
A Downey-based preservation group announced that they are trying to save the first Taco Bell. These are American cultural icons, Bill. We need to save them.
Tear it down.
Fast food franchises.
Take a look. I'm not going to tell you where to go. Go Google if you want to help the first Taco Bell.
Tear it down.
scary story from over the weekend. Several gunshots were fired from a vehicle that sped past the home of Vice President Joe Biden in Greenville, Delaware.
I know.
This
Whoa.
was Saturday night, and federal law enforcement officials announced that they are looking into it. They say it occurred around 8:25 at night. Joe Biden and his wife, they were staying at the home over the weekend,
but they were out to dinner.
Not in the house at the time of the shooting. So stay tuned. We'll have more on that story as it unfolds. And the Washington Nationals baseball team will probably make a big announcement here. It's reported that they have signed Max Scherzer, pitcher from the Detroit Tigers, one of the, maybe the most dominant pitcher in baseball. They have reportedly agreed to a deal, 7 years, over $180 million.
Oh, my God. Whoa.
7 years is a long time. And Scherzer's not a young guy anymore, but he's just absolutely done. I think I saw his record was like 55 and 15, but just brutal pitcher. And so he's going to be a National, which then brings up the question of what happens to some of the other pitchers here on the Nationals, because you got Jordan Zimmerman and Steven Strasburg, and they have to throw one of them overboard.
They might, right.
Stay
they
tuned.
did a pretty good job. Boy, that's exciting. Okay, yes, indeed. It was also exciting to see the Supreme Court last week say we're going to jump with both feet into the question of same-sex marriage and hear that case and decide it this spring. It looks like Josh Gerstein covers the court and other issues, senior White House correspondent for Politico, joining us on our news line this morning. Hello, Josh. How are you?
Hey, Bill, I'm great. Happy MLK Day to you.
Happy MLK Day, yes. So tell us the significance of the Supreme Court taking these cases.
Well, it's potentially enormous. I mean, this is something that many gay rights activists have been waiting for quite a while now, and some people thought the court might do this back in October when it first started its term. But at that point, there was no conflict, as they say, between the appeals courts, a circuit split that is often what is required for the justices to step in. They usually don't step in unless there's some disagreement. At that point, there hadn't been. Later in October, I think they developed such a split. It was the Sixth Circuit out of Ohio that became the first federal appeals court, at least in the current round of litigation, to rule that the U.S. Constitution does not guarantee a right to same-sex marriage. I think we've had 4 rulings from various appeals courts around the country, various federal appeals courts, that it did guarantee a right to same-sex marriage. And so that split came into place, and once the appropriate papers were filed at the court, sort of the legal analysts began predicting that now the court actually would do it and jump in, and indeed that's what happened on Friday morning.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg where she said, well, all the courts have agreed so far, we're not going to rush in, right, where there's no debate, right, or no dispute, no difference. And so they were waiting for that other shoe to drop, if you will. This is the follow-up to the Windsor decision, is it not?
Yeah, and it is sort of the shoe dropping that some people thought would have happened at that time in 2013. You may remember there were actually a pair of cases that went up to the high court. There was the Windsor case.
And the California case.
Right, I think people called it the Perry case, which dealt with Prop 8 out of California. And the court kind of punted on that, came up with the notion that there was a sort of a defect in the way that was presented, a very weird situation where the voters had voted one way, and then the courts had overturned it, and then the California leaders in the time being decided they wouldn't defend the statute, which caused a certain amount of procedural problems for the court, and they ended up basically dumping the case without resolving it definitively one way or another. It was positive news for gay rights advocates in California because it meant marriage became legal there again, but it didn't set any precedent for the rest of the country. But it left this question open, could a state, as many do, I think the number around at the moment is about 36 allowing gay marriage, about 14 that don't, probably more would reject it if the courts hadn't sort of overruled the state constitutions and so forth. Do they have the right to do that? Do they have the right to block same-sex couples from getting married in their state?
So when would this likely come down? This spring?
Yes, no, a little later, probably at the end of June. It probably won't be argued until very late in the court's term. So the court usually hears arguments until, say, the third or maybe the fourth week in April, and I think that's when this will be argued, and in all likelihood it'll be resolved on maybe the last day that the court meets at the end of June.
So I guess the court's options, right, they could say, yes, under the Constitution, gay couples have the same right to get married as straight couples, or they could say leave it up to the states.
Right, and they did, when they put this order out on Friday, they seemed to allow sort of one potential middle ground option, which is they did ask whether states were obliged, in addition to this question about the U.S. Constitution, whether states were obliged to recognize marriages performed that are legal in other states. And that would be a middle ground if the court really was looking for it. Most people don't think the court will do that. They think there will be probably a 5-4 decision to recognize same-sex marriage as a right, and to say that these laws that block it are unconstitutional. But there is a third way, which would be to basically say states must recognize marriages performed in other states, and that would essentially mean that any couple in the country, as long as they had the means to get to another state to get married, would be able to have all the rights and privileges of marriage in their state. So that would be, I think, not a victory that would satisfy completely gay rights advocates, but in practical terms, it would be pretty significant in terms of getting those privileges to anyone around the country.
And I think we're at the point, isn't it like 70% of the population today lives in a state where marriage equality is now the law of the land? I think
that's I've heard those numbers, 2/3, maybe 70%. But remember, a lot of that is just what's happened in the last 6 months to a year, with perhaps 20 or so states shifting from the not allowing column into the allowing column, in large part due to this flurry of district court and federal appeals court rulings, which, if the Supreme Court went the other way, could be reversed. State constitutional provisions are not routinely overturned, and I'm sure many of those states would jump at the opportunity, or at least I think some of them would, to put the bans back in place. So you do have that whole question of, once it's allowed, people tend to see, oh my God, like nothing that terrible has really happened here. Maybe it would be okay to let it keep going. So there's no question the momentum on the ground is with the folks that favor same-sex marriage rights.
We're talking with Josh Gerstein from Politico, Politico.com. Now, Josh, you have been very much on my mind over the weekend, believe it or not, so I'm glad you're with us today. I'm working on a new book, and I was looking into President Obama and the new changes in sentencing guidelines that the administration has been. They've taken two whacks at it. One for future sentencing, and now for people serving existing sentences on for nonviolent drug-related crimes. Correct? Right. Yeah. What's the impact of this whole new approach?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I wrote a piece right after the new year talking about a big initiative the president had launched about a year ago.
So I was reading that, and then your previous pieces as well.
Right, and that one dealt with one component of this, which is a commutation drive, where the Justice Department said that they were going to look at the sentences of people that were serving more than 10 years who felt that they might be eligible for some kind of relief. Largely due to this issue of the crack powder disparity. There was a bill, a Fair Sentencing Act, the president signed in 2010 that I don't think you'd say fixed that problem, but ameliorated the problem going forward, saying that there would be a closer correlation between sentencing for crack and powdered cocaine dealers or other people involved in trafficking in those drugs. But that was not retroactive. So for the tens of thousands of people that were already in jail serving lengthy crack sentences, that really didn't do anything for them. You mentioned in the sentencing guidelines, there has been I think a slight tweak to the sentencing guidelines that would allow some of those people to get a minor reduction in their sentence. But the White House, the Justice Department did announce this program about a year ago to allow prisoners to request commutations. Commutation is basically part of the president's executive clemency pardon power under the Constitution, and that he might just sign a big batch of these and give people maybe a few years off their sentence if you were serving, say, 20 to 30 or more years, as some of these folks are, the president might decide, look, 15, 18 years is enough for some of these people. And indeed, he's done that in about 16 cases over the last couple years. But so far, this sort of wave of commutations that was suggested hasn't materialized. There are a bunch of people working on it, including some outside groups working on getting applications to the Justice Department. But my article basically discusses it's been a very slow process. There are a lot of roadblocks involved, and there are so many people who think they deserve early release. I think more than 27,000 people who are in prison have applied for this program already. And as I say, we've had only 16 people total, 8 of whom I think were done even before the program began. So there's a long road to hoe here, and some people are just concerned, will this even get done by the time President Obama leaves office?
Yeah. No, it's a very, very important issue because the prisons are overcrowded. So many people there are serving these mandatory minimum sentences, which was the big deal back in the 80s in the war on drugs, but has proven not to be that effective. So, Josh, you're on top of that issue, as you are on many others, and we thank you again for your good work and for your time this morning. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks for bringing it up, Bill. I appreciate it. Take
Talk
care.
to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Politico.com. Josh Gerstein.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, it's 26 minutes after the hour. And Justin Sink from The Hill joins us in the next half hour. I got two quick little things here, recommendations. One is, on this Martin Luther King Day, I saw it yesterday. It's phenomenal. Go see Selma. Yeah, the portrayal of LBJ is not fair, but he comes around at the end. But don't let that distract from the movie. The movie is a phenomenal movie. The other thing I'm going to say is, I've talked about this before. You've heard me talk about it. This little box I've got from Harry's.com. It is, I just can't tell you how much I love it, right? And this little box, the best razor I've ever used in my entire life. It is so cool and so, I just can't get over it, what a great shave it gives. So anyhow, I just don't everybody. It's a great product. And for this whole box with a shaving cream and a razor and replacement blades, for our listeners, $10.
That's insane.
It is.
That's great.
Harrys.com.
And they send it to you.
Yeah, they send it right to you. And no shipping costs. First class. Check it out. Harrys.com. Peter, breaking news.
Breaking news. The White House just announced who will be sitting with the First Lady in her box for the State of the Union tomorrow night. A lot of students and letter writers, people who have written the White House with issues.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of those, but also Alan and Judy Gross will be sitting with her. Recently, cool. Alan Gross, recently freed from
Cuba, the prison in Cuba. Oh, good.
Scott Kelly, American astronaut, he's going to be sitting there. He's going to be the first American to live and work on board the International Space Station. He's going to be heading out in March to go there.
Not Mark Kelly, Scott Kelly.
Scott Kelly, not Mark. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Larry Merlo, the president and chief executive officer of CVS Health.
Oh, really?
Remember, they dropped cigarette sales, so good. We're going to highlight that. And also Captain Philip Tingarides from the Los Angeles Police Department for some of the work he's done cleaning up gang violence and gang crime in L.A.
There you go. Yeah, that'll be a good group, and that's always a big deal when the president will acknowledge those people in the box as well. Justin Sink coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we are at 33 minutes after the hour, The Bill Press Show on Martin Luther King Day. Monday, January 19, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., and brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees, the good men and women working in our federal agencies. Members of the AFGE under President J. David Cox, proud to work for America every day. We salute their good work, thank them for the good work, and you can find out more about all the different agencies involved and what they're up to at their website, afge.org. Washington officially may have the day off, but this whole town is just buzzing with excitement over tomorrow and the State of the Union tomorrow evening. It's a big rite of passage here every year in Washington. Justin Singh covers the White House for The Hill, and even on this day off joins us in studio this morning. Of course, it's not a day off for you or us, right?
Yeah, no, not for me. I am glad to see you here. I've come in like 3 times and you haven't been here. I thought you were avoiding me. I thought they invited me in on a holiday so that there'd be another guest host.
Another guest host? No.
just to keep the streak alive. But it's good to see you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I noticed that your chair was empty at the White House news conference with David Cameron and President Obama on Friday. If we want to start telling tales here,
I was still watching, just not from the scene of the crime itself. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's good to be back together with you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So, I mean, several people have written about this. The State of the Union ain't what it used to be, right?
You know, it's not, but at the same time, I think that this is a really important speech for President Obama. What we've heard in the sort of rollout, so the way that the White House has handled it this year is kind of unique. They've rolled out most of the policy initiatives beforehand.
Right. So is there anything new tomorrow night we're going to hear?
Even if the speech doesn't have the impact, because it doesn't have all the new things, what it's effectively done in talking to White House officials, this is what they wanted it to do, is we've spent the last 3 weeks talking about the president's proposals on different issues, instead of talking about the first 3 weeks of the new Congress and all the Republican efforts on repealing immigration, on rolling back Obamacare, on the Keystone Pipeline. So they really feel like they've been able to counter-program sort of the opening.
To capture the agenda.
Exactly.
Of thing, right? And so they're talking about broadband, and they're talking about cybersecurity, and they're talking about the new tax plan and community college and whatever else. The president's been on the road talking about these things, and that's been driving the agenda.
And because it's linked to the State of the Union, I think it generates a lot of coverage. And so So I think that's been really important for the White House. The other thing that's kind of interesting about this is kind of the last chance for the White House to lay down its policy markers on what undoubtedly we can already tell is going to be the biggest issue of the 2016 campaign, which is the sort of issue of inequality, right? We see the economy coming back. We see lots of good jobs numbers. We see lots of indications that things are getting better, but wage growth is stagnant, and the rich are getting richer while the middle class is kind of staying where they were back into the Bush administration. And so, last week we see Mitt Romney give his first big policy speech. It's about poverty. We see Hillary Clinton start to put a toe in the water, get on Twitter, and start talking about financial reform and inequality in the middle class. And so, President Obama wants to stay relevant. The White House wants to stay relevant, and they want to kind of shape this conversation. And they want to shape the agenda over the next few months. They don't want to cede that to Republicans who are now in control of Congress. And so if he does this effectively, if he's able to sort of capture the attention or the imagination of the country in his speech tomorrow night, which even, at its diminished rate will be watched by 30+ million people.
Yeah.
This is a real chance for him to sort of put his flag in the ground and say, I'm still here. I might be a lame duck, but I'm still going to matter in this conversation.
No, that's an important point, that with all the people who say, well, not as many people watch the State of the Union anymore, but we're still talking like 35 million people. I mean, this is a pretty powerful platform. Now, the big thing, the latest big thing over the weekend is that we've heard all this talk about tax reform, but the president's proposal really takes the tax code and turns it upside down.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big,
outline it for us briefly.
Yeah, it's a big sweeping proposal, and the basic tenets are it's an expansion of things like the earned income tax credit, which is a very popular credit that helps kind of poor working families, expansion of child tax credits. So if you're a middle class family, you would expect to benefit from the president's plan.
So it's going to cut taxes for the middle class.
Exactly, and make it up in two ways. One is kind of increasing taxes on the wealthy, especially through what they're calling the trust fund loophole. So right now, trust funds are essentially shielded from taxes. They're going to go after that. The death tax, the so-called death tax, is another area where they want to go after large inheritance. Yeah, exactly. So they've built in protections. So if it's under $500,000, this is especially important for homes that might go from parents to their children or something. There are some protections, but once you get past a certain threshold, they're going to start to come after that under the president's plan. And they use all the money, and they take a fee on some of the largest big banks, so about the 100 largest financial institutions.
And the capital gains tax also would increase up to 28%.
Yes, back to the level it was during Ronald Reagan's presidency.
Right.
So they take the money that they generate from all of this, which is hundreds of billions of dollars, and they apply it both to the middle class tax cut and to some of the priorities that the president's laid out in the last few weeks. So infrastructure, free community college for 2 years. And so, they are kind of pitching this as a way to address this inequality
issue. Last week, when everybody was saying, oh, this is a great idea, this community college, free community college, how are we going to pay for it? We didn't hear then, but now we know that we would pay for it through these higher taxes on the wealthiest of Americans. So that's a very, I think it sounds, what I've just read and seen so far, a great step forward, something that would really help the 99% of people in this country. But what are the chances of getting it through this Congress? And do they care?
Almost zero is the first answer.
Really?
All right. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah. But I think that it does matter, both for the reason that we already talked about. So the White House wants to have this conversation, wants to have this debate, and wants to ask Republicans, how do you plan to address this issue? We saw it was a tricky one for Mitt Romney back in the last election, because he wanted to give a middle-class tax cut, but he also wanted to give a tax cut to the wealthy and make all the numbers balance out, and couldn't quite figure out how to make it happen. And that was something that the Obama campaign really seized on. And so This is an argument they want to have. It's certainly an argument and debate that they want to have more than talking about kind of Obamacare or the Keystone Pipeline. And this is also kind of an opportunity for the president to give Democratic candidates who are running in 2016 a policy platform to say, well, you know, President Obama might kind of be towards the twilight of his presidency and not be able to have the legislative momentum to make something like this happen. But this is what, this is a proposal that our party can rally behind and that can kind of become a foundation or a bedrock for the vision forward.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that politically there would be a lot of advantages. I mean, for one thing, during the next 2 years, they'll be able to go to Congress and say, okay, basically, who do you stand for, right? Who do you stand with, right? Do you stand with the middle class and are going to give them this tax break, or do you stand with the people who are already at the top of the ladder, don't need help? And so just basically putting their feet to the fire, and then beyond that, I would agree with you. At the present time, this is not a snowball's chance to get through this Congress, but it can provide the platform on economic populism that the Democrats could run on in 2016 across the board.
Exactly. The danger for the president is that because it doesn't really have a chance, it could be easy for Republicans to dismiss this as just sort of a partisan gambit. And so that's the kind of high wire act that the White House is running. Talking to officials and aides over there, they say they feel confident, though, that this can gain traction. And what we're going to see after the State of the Union is a big kind of social media online blitz to try to engage supporters of the president, but also kind of ordinary Americans who might not normally be checked into this and try to get some enthusiasm behind this idea. So
the White House has announced that immediately after, it's not unusual for the president to go on the road right after the State of the Union to take his message out to the American people. He is going to Boise, Idaho on Wednesday, and then somewhere in Kansas.
I think Lawrence,
Kansas. I mean, why? It seems to me if there's the worst place other than Utah maybe would be going, look, there's some really good people in Idaho, but it's a red state.
Sure.
And Kansas is a red state. You go to 2 red states to say your program? Really? Why?
Well, they're college campuses in both cases, so I think the president will have a bit of a receptive audience. Right. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about before, which is that, the president wants, I think, with this speech to touch not the bases of the parties, because they're really kind of locked in at this point, locked in what they think about the Obama presidency, but kind of people who have checked out, who aren't paying attention right now, who aren't kind of motivated or interested in what's going on. And he thinks that he can kind of improve the Democratic brand, improve his brand by saying, this is my middle class agenda. I think I've got some ideas that at the very least you should start asking your Republican congressmen or Republican senators if they're interested in or if they want to work with me on.
You have a kinder approach to answer that question than I have. I sort of feel that there's like the 50-state box, and there are a couple of states. A couple of states he hasn't been to, and he's got to
check them off.
He check them off. It's his short-term bucket list. Got to get all 50 states in. And God, I haven't been to Idaho yet. Might as well get there.
I drove through Idaho on a road trip last summer. There's some beautiful parts of that state. I think you could get some good tourism into if you wanted to, swing around. Yeah, okay. But
well, I know one thing. I might as well grab my phone because I have a good friend from Idaho, and I'm sure I'm going to get.
You're going to get an angry phone call.
I'm going to get an angry text here anytime. Justin Sink is with us, talking about the president's big initiatives and what we can expect in the State of the Union. You've heard turning the tax code upside down, raising taxes on the very wealthiest of Americans, and free fall tax breaks for the middle class. 866-55-PRESS. What do you think?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour, Aswin Subsang from the Daily Beast comes in at the top of the hour to talk movies. I saw a couple of the big ones over the weekend. Looking forward to that. Justin Sink from The Hill, covering the White House for The Hill, here in the studio with us at this moment. Doing a little preview of what we can expect from President Obama with the State of the Union speech tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern in front of a joint session of Congress. Let's say a quick hello to our friend Joey out in Chicago. Joey, what's up? Hello, man.
Good morning, everybody. Happy holidays.
Hey, Joey. Yeah.
The president has to bring up what the House of Representatives have tried to do with disability by not letting them borrow money next year from the other fund to do that. It's okay to help rich people, but you can't neglect people with no legs. You can't neglect people who are blind. You can't neglect people who have muscular dystrophy. I cannot believe they're trying to pull this crap. The president has to bring this up. This is a winning issue. These people can't get up and go get jobs. They have no legs, and they're trying to cut their payments. Bill, we have to get on this, and we have to write to the House of Representatives and stop this. This is ridiculous, Bill.
All right, Joe, you got it. Yeah, we talked about it last week. I mean, Justin, it is strange when I look at the issues that, okay, they're in charge now, right? The issues that John Boehner and Mitch McConnell have decided to lead off on. Okay, you had Keystone. You've got repealing the DREAM Act, but Joey's right on the Social Security thing, where they've always been able to, if they need some more money in disability, they take it from here, they put it in there, and now this Congress is saying basically, no, we're going to cut the funding, we're going to cut Social Security benefits for the disabled. I mean, what are they thinking? And I do hope Obama mentions this tomorrow and says this is wrong. But
yeah, I think, I mean, I'm not entirely kind of sure what the legislative strategy is, but it appears what it is that Republicans want to sort of clear the decks by throwing out a bunch of red meat legislation that would just sort of...
they know it's not going to go anywhere.
Exactly. They know the president will veto it, and they want to show to their base, we've won an election, we're going to pass these laws, we're going to make President Obama actually veto it, where before Harry Reid could kind of block the passage. And so I think that right now we're going through a period, and, you know, President Obama and the White House have talked very explicitly about how they kind of expected this, and we're ready to, you know, they don't want to take it personally in terms of working with Republicans down the road, but they're going to go through this session of them kind of playing to their base and doing the votes that they need to do. And then the hope is after that, they'll be able to come together and maybe strike deals and strike bargains on some of these traditional areas where they've been able to find common ground.
Now, I know you were not up. We talked to Alex Bolton from Hershey.
Yes.
For the Hill.
I hope he brought me some, you know,
Oh,
Reese's cups back. Yeah, exactly.
Those 5-pounders.
One of those 5-pounders?
Yeah.
Right.
One of those.
If he didn't bring you one, you let us know. We'll give him hell.
All right, good.
But the word from Hershey seemed to be that Mitch McConnell and the senators were sort of telling the Tea Party Republicans, look, guys, you know, you're not going to get all this stuff through the Senate, so you might as well just grow up, basically.
Well, you know, there was a really...
Did that message get through?
Well, that's been, I think, the central debate in the Republican Party for years now, and one that John Boehner has really struggled to try to reconcile. But in a way, fortunately for him, he's got a larger majority that makes him less kind of reliant on those Tea Party Republicans to pass major legislation. There was a revealing interview with Mitch McConnell in the Washington Post kind of shortly after he took over Congress, in which he said that his goal for the legislative session is to make Republicans seem less scary. He wants to show that they can effectively govern and sort of lay out their case for why Republicans should be elected president in 2016. They know that the party's brand is sort of damaged after the Bush presidency, after some of the legislative battles that they've gone through. And so I think it is a real opportunity that didn't necessarily exist early in President Obama's term for them to come together, especially on stuff like trade, corporate tax reform, issues like that.
No, I believe that, but, you know, Boehner's going to have to, Speaker is going to have to stand up to that Tea Party and maybe even bring some things to the floor that he'll get passed only with Democratic votes, but at least be able to move some things forward. All right, Justin, back to work today. No, and tomorrow, State of the Union. It's going to be a big week.
Yeah. Exciting.
All right. Thanks so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
See ya. I'll come back and take a look at the president's schedule today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, with 2 hours almost done, we are ready to roll into hour number 3. Remember, on Free Speech TV, you'll watch hour number 3, but with a delay at 5 p.m. Eastern and 4 Central. On TawkrTV, however, we are live in the next hour worldwide, so just go to youtube.com/TawkrTV. A lot of great movies out with the Oscar nominations, a lot of attention particularly. Aswin Subsang from the Daily Beast will be here to tell us all about them, and we'll talk about a new economic plan put out by the Center for American Progress. All of that coming up right here on hour number 3.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
Should I get back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, it is a down day for the federal government. It is a down day for the President of the United States as well. No meetings at the White House, no visitors scheduled, no briefing today. The White House is basically shut down. The only thing on the president's agenda is that this afternoon, a tradition now, the president and the first lady, to commemorate Martin Luther King Day, will participate in a service project somewhere in Washington, D.C., probably one of the soup kitchens or homeless shelters here in town. They're going off to do that at 1:30. Otherwise, it's just a kickback day. And I hope many of you are able to do so as well, whether you get the day off or not. We appreciate your fact you are here with us. And we'll come back and talk Selma.
This is the Bill Press Show.
West here reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions. So from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now. We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
2 anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pacman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pacman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Happy Martin Luther King Day 2015, and hello everybody. Welcome to the Bill Press Show here on this Monday, January 19. Like most of you, we don't have the day off, but we celebrate the day. This great American, we have learned to respect even more with the release of the movie Selma. Hope you had a great weekend, watched a lot of good football. You certainly had one great game yesterday and one pretty lopsided one. It's a busy week for sports and when is the Super Bowl, Peter?
2 weeks from yesterday.
2 weeks from yesterday. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. How could I forget? I'm just so focused on the big event this week, the State of the Union address, Tuesday evening. President Obama's probably got the whole thing written already. At least they put out a lot of ideas the president is going to be talking about. We'll bring you up to date whatever's happening on the news front here in Washington, around the country, and around the globe. Not only tell you what's going on, but then open up the phones and our social media lines to find out from you what you think about it all. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. That's one way to do it. Give us a call. Otherwise, you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. On a Monday, the team here, Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Happy Monday.
Hey, good morning.
Ready to go. Whole new week.
Here we are.
Woohoo.
Alice Cruz, there she is on the phones. The big wave, 866-55-PRESS. Again, the toll-free number. And we are looking at you on Free Speech TV, a little delayed on Free Speech, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, and looking at you on TawkrTV, thanks to our videographer, Cyprian Bolding. And, he's back, Mitt Romney. He said, I'm thinking I might do it. And, he lives in La Jolla. And the Republican National Committee was meeting just down the road in San Diego, so he had to show up, and he did over the weekend, and made it even more clear that he thinks Republicans can win in 2016, and he's the one who can make it happen.
We can win in 2016 as a party, in the House, in the Senate, and in the White House.
Yeah. The only big question is, will he get permission from Ann? Because we know that she had, not so long ago, again, repeated, hell no. She didn't say that because she's a Mormon.
Yeah,
but she
would never use HE double hockey sticks.
No, she just said LL. No. We've done that. Not going back there. We had our chance. It's time to move on. She seems to, according to Mitt, have changed her mind.
Most frequently asked question I get is, what does Ann think about all this? Mm-hmm. And she believes that people get better with experience. And,
that's pretty painful.
Listen to that.
Heaven knows I have experience
painful.
running for president.
He thought that was the winner, too. He was going for that.
Yeah, he was
Listen
going
to that thin applause on that big punchline.
They are embarrassed as we are.
God.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. All right, Mitt. Yep. You have as much chance to make money as a stand-up comic as you do to be president of the United States. Yeah. There he is. Lots going on here. We want to talk to you about the movie Selma, which I saw over the weekend. Get your comments as well. And then Michael Madowitz will be along from the Center for American Progress. They have just released a very bold new economic plan that they hope to get the administration to take seriously. He'll tell us all about it at the half hour. But first,
this is
Peter.
the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Speaking of stand-up comedy, there's a stand-up comic by the name of Ralphie May. He's a big name. He's on tour. He was in Colorado on Thursday night, and he was on stage and had some problems. He began slurring. He became incoherent. Fans were upset. They began booing. Cops had to show up. Someone called the police because they said they wanted their money back.
Was he drunk?
Well, his manager put out a statement over the weekend, Bill, saying, unfortunately, Ralphie is the first victim of legalized marijuana. Again, this was in Colorado, in Denver. The comic went there. He says he ate a couple of edibles, more than he should have, and then went on stage to try and do comedy and was so stoned out of his gourd that nobody knew what the hell he was saying.
Whoa.
His manager said, if you were at the show, hang on to your ticket stub. He's going to come back. He's going to make up the appearance, and he's not going to get high ahead of time.
He's only going to drink Chardonnay, so he'll be okay.
Right. But, like, if you have an important gig or you're going to be going on TV or stand-up comedy or a debate or whatever, don't get high. Don't eat edibles from Colorado.
He would hardly be the first comic to go out in front of an audience.
He just can't handle it.
You're right. But what they're saying is he doesn't get high that often, and he ate too much because these edibles are so powerful. And this is one of the things that they have fought with in Colorado is to try and inform. This is what happened to Maureen Dowd.
I know.
They said you eat a piece of the chocolate bar, and she ate the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
So it looks like he ate the whole damn thing and then some. So you got to be careful with the edibles. You got to be careful. That's all I'm saying. He found out the hard way. We go to Bellevue, Michigan, where a man by the name of Eric Witzke and his neighbor, who happens to be a contractor, they decided to dig up his backyard to put in a pond. And they found more than they bargained for. Mm-hmm. They found almost a complete skeleton of dinosaur bones. Whoa. He said that as they started digging, they found more and more bones, huge bones, 42 bones altogether. Turns out they had a whole mastodon.
Wow.
In this backyard. So they're going to finish digging up the yard. They're going to keep looking to see if they find anything else. And he says we're probably just going to give it to a museum or put it to some good use that way and let people come and look at them. But
yeah, I mean, you're not going to.
There's not much you can do.
Exactly. You're not going to keep it in your den.
Yeah, right. You
could make some stock, maybe.
Yeah. Bone broth is very hot right now. Yeah. And you mentioned the Super Bowl. It is February 1st, 2 weeks from yesterday, and we now know who's going to play. It will be the Seattle Seahawks taking on the New England Patriots. Patriots blew away the Indianapolis Colts last night, 45-7, and Seahawks an improbable victory as they came from well behind to beat the Packers in overtime, 28-22. So
yeah, we have that final call for the.
It's incredible.
The final call for the Packers. So it's overtime. You can lead up to it, right? And
so the Seahawks scored like 2 touchdowns in something like 40-something seconds. They scored. They were still behind. They kicked an onside kick. They recovered, and then they scored another touchdown, and then scored a 2-point conversion, which put them up 3 points. Packers kicked a field goal, and then they went to overtime. And if the Seahawks scored a touchdown, they won the game. So here they are with the touchdown.
Here's the snap. Wilson looking, lofts it deep over the middle. Over the shoulder, catch is made. Touchdown. Game over. Jermaine Kearse on the touchdown.
I believe that's the call from Green Bay, by the way. You can hear the guys like, oh, no.
I heard. Uh-oh. Indeed. Yeah. All right. 14 minutes after the hour. Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. We're not movie critics here. We usually have Ann Hornaday on from the Post when we want to the real pro, right, on movie criticism. But with all the talk about the Oscars, particularly with all the talk about Selma, wanted to give you my reaction to it. But first, I saw 2 of the Oscar nominations over the weekend. Friday night, Carol and I watched The Imitation Game. The name again?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
How could I forget?
Yeah,
Benedict
I know.
Cumberbatch. But playing the story, it's an incredible story. It's a wonderful film. Excellent. A real kind of thriller about a mathematician, which doesn't kind of make sense. But this was this very nerdy mathematician. True story, Alan Turing, who was hired by the British government to crack the code that the Nazis used, a code called Enigma. And they used that code to give orders to all of their troops and their aircraft and their U-boats and destroyers and all of that. All the military the orders of the day went out under this code Enigma. And the British had no idea how to crack it. Alan Turing in a great story, had the insight, developed the machine, cracked the code, won the war with his little team, won the war for the Allies, beat the Nazis, and his reward for that was, after the war, he was arrested because he was gay. Not molesting children or anything. No, just because at the time it was a crime to be gay.
Sad.
Yeah, so sad. But a great story and great film. But the real one over the weekend, and with all the talk, I was ready not to go see Selma because of all the talk about LBJ. I'm a big LBJ fan, not for the Vietnam War, but for the other stuff that he did, particularly on civil rights. But I decided I had to see the movie anyhow, and I'm really glad I did. And I can't tell you, my advice to you today is, if you had any doubts at all, forget about it. It's a great movie. It's phenomenal. Go see Selma. Don't walk, run, and get out and see it as soon as you can at a theater near you. It's certainly one of the most moving, one of the most powerful films that I've seen in my life. I think hands down it should get the Oscar for Best Picture. And it's just tragic that David Oyelowo, who plays Martin Luther King Jr., was not nominated for Best Actor. But there's so many elements to it, just very quickly. And I'd love to hear from you if you saw the movie or plan to see it, 866-55-PRESS. First of all, you see the whole for the first time, you really see the whole story about inside the civil rights movement. It wasn't such a united front as we might think. There are a lot of differences, as there are in any organizations, among them, between Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis at the time, and the other heads of people from SNCC, and Malcolm X and others, about how to proceed and achieve their goal. And particularly it's focused on the Voting Rights Act of enabling African Americans in the South to vote and getting the Congress or the state legislatures to make that happen. So you have that inside tension. And then the portrayal of Martin Luther King by David Oyelowo is just unbelievable. I mentioned earlier, Ann Hornaday, from our friend from the Washington Post, said he doesn't play Martin Luther King Jr., he channels him. He's so real and such a powerful, moving portrayal. With all of his, he wasn't really sure what he wanted to do or where he should go. He's wrestling with this, but he was angry when he had to be angry. He was passionate when he had to be passionate, and he was calm and calming other people down when he had to do that. Incredible leader comes across.
How did he get passed over for Best Actor?
No idea, because he is the central figure in the movie.
Yeah.
And as far as the LBJ thing, look, it bothered me that they portray him as so negative and such an obstructionist, which he was not. He was actually, as a historian told us last week here on the show, he was on the phone with Martin Luther King Jr. saying, you got to do your thing and I'll do my thing. I got a real problem here in Congress. You go out there and get as much publicity as you can, man. Mm-hmm. Get it on radio, get it on TV. And God knows Martin Luther King did, So in a sense, they were allies. And so I do think they portrayed Lyndon Johnson in the beginning of the film, for sure, as too negative. In the end, he comes across as a hero when he goes to Congress and says, we shall overcome, we shall get this done, we will pass a Voting Rights Act. But that negative portrayal for part of the film about Lyndon Johnson does not take away the power of the film. That's the most important thing. It does not take away. And the real villains of the film are J. Edgar Hoover, who is out to destroy Martin Luther King Jr., by the way, with Bobby Kennedy's and permission, not Johnson's. And the other villain is George Wallace, who could have easily allowed voter registration to happen for blacks in Alabama, but wouldn't do it, and was passing the buck up to Lyndon Johnson. So for all of that, it was really great, and it ends in a triumphant moment when finally, after that bloodbath, the first time they tried to cross the bridge, when Martin Luther, and there was a second march, which I didn't even realize, where they got to the center of the bridge, and Martin Luther King saw the cops down there. The cops got out of the way, but King knelt down and prayed. Everybody else did with him, and then he got up and he turned around and walked back to Selma.
Wow.
They didn't cross the bridge. And then the third time, they get a permission for a 5-day march, and they go all the way to Montgomery, and Martin Luther King Jr. on the steps of the state capitol in Montgomery at the climax of that march.
Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men? I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, yes, sir, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long.
Won't be long.
Because truth crushed earth will rise again. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. Yes, sir. Because no lie can live forever. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. How long? Because you shall reap what you sow. Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed. And I'm telling you, when you see David Oyelowo giving that speech at the end, you think you're looking at Martin Luther King Jr., the cadence and everything. It is so powerful. Go see it. Selma. Have you seen it? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here on Martin Luther King Day.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job, and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand, and they don't get it, and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Michael Madowitz, economist for the Center for American Progress, joining us at the half hour to talk about the exciting new report the center released at the end of last week on turning this economy around. We're talking now Selma, which I saw yesterday and can't tell you how much I loved it, how moved I was by it, and how important it is that you go see it. Barbara, here in Washington, D.C. on our newsline this morning. Hi, Barbara.
Hi, Bill.
What do you think?
Well, I saw the movie yesterday, and I just thought it was a beautiful film. I felt the director gave it a very intimate character. Like I felt I was there.
Absolutely.
With all of the characters. It really felt like it was happening to me as well, and that was just very impressive.
And being in the room there, with the young John Lewis and Ralph Abernathy and King and a couple of the others. Yeah, it was incredible.
It was incredible. And at the end of the film, the audience applauded, so that was very uplifting at the end.
They did it in the theater I saw it too, Barbara. Yes, and they were applauding the various historic figures as they were shown at the end of the film as well. The actors who were playing them, like when the John Lewis came up, everybody applauded. And it was great. Thanks, Barbara. Tracy out in Austin, Texas. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Bill. I wanted to comment on the characterization of LBJ. I didn't think it was particularly negative. I thought it was really just showing political expediency and all of the gamesmanship that goes on in trying to get anything done in D.C.
Yeah, I didn't think it was as negative. It wasn't as negative as I thought, but it was more negative than reality, I think, Tracy, is the point. I mean, Johnson was actually, giving advice to Martin Luther King during the time, if you listen to the tapes, right?
Right, he was. I agree. I think it was, for dramatic purposes, it made...
Yeah. But you know what? At the end, Johnson comes around as a hero of the civil rights movement, which he really is. Thanks, Tracy, for the call.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's 33 minutes after the hour, and you know if The Nation says it, it must be true. The most valuable progressive morning show of anywhere in the country. We are here in our nation's capital, The Bill Press Show, on this Martin Luther King Day, Monday, January 19. Brought to you today by the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers. You put all those groups together, Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers. That's the SMART Union. Members of the SMART Union under President Joseph Nigro giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. You bet. Find out more about their good work at their website, smart-union.org. President Obama poised to give his State of the Union address to the nation tomorrow, where he will talk about his ideas on the economy, particularly, as we're told, to cut taxes for the middle class by raising taxes on the very wealthiest of Americans. The Center for American Progress is also out with a new report on the economy, a report of the Commission on Inclusive Prosperity, released just the end of last week. Michael Madowitz is an economist with the Center for American Progress, worked hard on this report for the last year and joins us in studio. Michael, it's good to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for sharing your Martin Luther King. Do you guys, is the center closed today?
Absolutely.
Oh, man. You know, what better love than this?
I know, man, to actually come in on a day off.
Come in on a day off.
Hey, at least it's the morning, you know.
Yeah,
right. That's right. You can go back to bed after this. You know, related to your study, this headline caught my attention this morning. A new Oxfam report says half of the global wealth is held by 1%. It sort of reflects the situation in this country. Your Commission on Inclusive Prosperity, that's right on point, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we're trying to address with this report is you've sort of seen this stagnation in middle class incomes, and you've seen the wealthy do particularly well, and we're sort of looking at things that are going on both globally, you know, that are sort of technology driven and, you know, outside the purview of policy, and then policies that individual countries have that are helping their middle classes deal with this better or worse.
And I mean, I noticed in this first line of the press release you put out on the report, history tells us that societies succeed when the fruits of growth are broadly shared. They're not broadly shared today.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's not universally true across the globe. And one of the strengths of this commission, so this was a very large commission with a long writing process, and we have input from we have strong input from the British Labour Party. We obviously have some progressives from America, but then we had commissioners from Australia, from Sweden, from Canada, from I'm not going to remember them all because it's early in the morning, but it was really interesting to get this kind of global perspective because you hear this kind of fatalism of, well, there's globalization or the robots are taking all the jobs and that's why we can't have nice things and our middle class is shrinking. And, when you look across the globe, I mean, Australia faces the same technology shocks we do. Sweden's a super global economy. I was building my daughter a bookcase from IKEA last night, right? These guys all face the same challenges we do, but we're seeing that something about the way they're structuring their economies and their policy is giving more growth to their middle-class incomes than what we've seen in the last decade or so.
So you do not see the same inequality gap in these countries that you do here in the United States?
So our focus isn't strictly on inequality, but you've seen, because, I mean, I think it really jumps out when you sort of look at the actual growth of, I think the measure we use is like the bottom 90% of income earners. So that there's been almost no growth among that group in the U.S. since about 2000.
Right.
And, if you look at other countries, right, like they're still facing the same trade with China, the same, Google is inventing cars that drive themselves that could drive on their streets too. But you're seeing those places being much more successful in actually producing growth in middle-class incomes over that period.
And what is the solution? Now, President Obama's apparently, the New York Times reports yesterday, going to propose raising taxes on the wealthy in this country and lowering taxes on the middle class. So is it a redistribution of income?
So that's certainly one approach. And I mean, a few of the countries that have done really well, like, your Swedens of the world, have really high tax rates. They also have a very active state that provides a lot of things that we do through markets. And, we don't get into that a whole lot. I think the driving forces on this commission were the Americans and the British, and both of our countries don't do particularly well in terms of our politics don't like it when the government's providing everything for people. So we were very focused on finding ways to grow middle class incomes through just market transactions, right? So not saying, okay, there's all this wealth, we're going to tax it at the top, and then we're going to distribute it through the economy. We were interested in more things like, how do you structure the economy so when the company I work for gets more profitable, I also get a raise?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know what the answers are, right? But it just seems to me that this fundamental inequality is not going to self-correct, or is it? I mean,
no. I mean,
we've been waiting for the trickle to trickle down,
right?
Since the days of Ronald Reagan,
and Margaret Thatcher, as our British colleagues reminded us.
Right? Yeah, it hasn't happened, and it's not going to happen because the people that get to trickle at the top keep it at the top.
That seems to be what the data say. Yeah, and I think that's one of the points that we sort of make in this is like, we've had this kind of, we're going to set up this market, we're going to let this happen, and then it's all going to kind of work out. And we just need to keep waiting, and it's going to happen. And, we're pretty strident on the idea that, sitting back and being inactive about this is clearly not the answer and is undermining a lot of the faith people have in their governments and their societies.
Yeah. So the report was released by the Center last week, end of last week. Now, what happens to it now? So I'm just curious. So you've got these. So, I imagine you outline the problem, you make your recommendations like any report. Here's what we think ought to happen. You got all these outstanding economists from around the world signing on. Now, what do you do to make sure that this is just another report that sits on the shelf and is forgotten about?
Yeah, so that's always the great fear when you work on a major document like this. So, I mean, the sort of first thing we're trying to make sure we do is get this out to a global audience. So because we didn't just look at the U.S., I believe my colleagues are launching in the UK with a big event this week. Mm-hmm. We did our U.S. launch last week. Our hope is just sort of start a major conversation with this. So as you might guess, the number of things that the Swedish government, or officials from the Swedish government, officials from the Australian, I'm forgetting the name of the party, the British Labour Party. The things we agree on, we agree on a lot of core tenets, but the solutions are going to be individual to the countries.
Right.
At the center, this report is kind of setting up a lot of the work we're doing for the next year. So we go through a series of policies that we think matter in the U.S. This is not the sum total of things that we intend to contribute to the economic debate this year.
But it's a big part of it, right?
Right, and it's mostly about starting this conversation because I think that when you talk, we saw a lot of discussion of inequality last year, and I think that was a really healthy thing for the country. What we're trying to do now is sort of say, now that we all kind of recognize this, let's talk about some of the policies that are within the realm of possibility that we could actually achieve, and what would those kind of look like?
Well, you're going to hear a lot more about it in this year and next year. I think. I mean, it's going to be, I believe, one of the driving policies of the 2016 presidential election. Certainly, if Bernie Sanders gets in the race, or Elizabeth Warren were to get in the race, I mean, this is going to be their platform. Now, if people want to read it, find out more about it, first of all, they can go to AmericanProgress.org. Okay. It will be one of the first couple hits if it's not the major hit on the website right now. AmericanProgress.org. And will you take this to the Congress? Will you take it to the White House and say, look, we've looked at this problem. Here are our recommendations? Yeah, we've actually been speaking with people from the Democratic House delegations, and there's been some contact with people at the White House about some of the reforms we think are things that could happen in the very near future. And as you might guess, I think most of the ideas we propose are good ideas, but there are political constraints on a lot of them. So we've been talking about what are sort of major political constraints we should be thinking about overcoming over the next year or two, and then what are things that we really should just be moving on now. Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the part of the report that shows that from the experience of other countries, it is possible, which you say you show, it is possible to have a thriving economy, a growing economy, which is more widespread, where the benefits of it and are more widespread than the way it is in this country, where you have this huge gap between the 1% and the 99%. Yeah, I mean, I think that's something we all understand as Americans. We used to have that, right? And I think the major take-home lesson here is, we don't have that right now, and it's not inevitable, right? So, everybody loved the 60s when incomes were growing fast and families were doing better. And then that seems to have kind of stopped. And one of the things we're trying to make sure is very clear is that that's a policy choice we've made. That's not just, the robots have not taken all of the jobs. Yeah. And if you look around the world, there are countries that are doing just fine in this economy. Yeah, and there are there are things we can do to bridge that gap and to bring a little more equality to the whole process. It's the report of the Commission on Inclusive Prosperity from the Center for American Progress. Again, you can check it out yourself at AmericanProgress.org. Michael, good work. Congratulations. You got the report out, and now good luck getting it paid attention to and implemented. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in today. It's been a pleasure. All right.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pacman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pacman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Okay, 12 minutes before the top of the hour. It is Martin Luther King Day, Monday, January 19. Again, my advice on the best way to celebrate Martin Luther King Day, go out and see the great portrayal of Martin Luther King by David Oyelowo in the movie Selma, which I saw yesterday. Phenomenal, very moving, very powerful film. And don't let the portrayal for part of the film, the negative portrayal about LBJ, destroy the film for you. He still comes across as a hero, and the movie is still very, very powerful. On the sillier front over the weekend, I just got to bring you up to date. It's so much fun watching these Republicans tripping all over themselves trying to announce or indicate their interest in running for president, shall we say? Right? Let's start with he's run before. We're just going to go in reverse order here. So he was on Fox News, and Huckabee is getting a little. He's a little upset, I think, because now people are talking more about Mitt Romney and Jeb Bush and not about Mike Huckabee, right?
Romney sort of stole the thunder away from all these knuckleheads.
So Huckles is saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm serious. After all, I quit Fox News.
Well, I think, Martha, the fact that I left the Fox gig, which was a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me, to leave that. I didn't do it just because I was tired of going to New York every week. So I think there's a very strong likelihood that sometime later in the spring, which has always been my timetable, I'll make some kind of declaration and clearly state my intentions. I'll put it that way.
So you say, don't forget about me. After all, I quit my job on Fox News. I'm serious.
Yawnsville, man.
Yawn. Exactly. And then you got people you wouldn't think. I mean, nobody but them think they would have a prayer, right, of doing it. I thought it was funny last week when John McCain was asked whether or not he was going to support Mitt Romney, and he says, well, I like Mitt, but I have to hold my fire because my illegitimate son might want to run, meaning Lindsey Graham. I thought he was kidding. But yesterday, Chuck Todd says, what's all this illegitimate son running for president talk? And Lindsey Graham admits, I'm thinking about it.
We're not polling, but we set up a testing the waters committee under the IRS code that would allow me to look beyond South Carolina as to whether or not a guy like Lindsey Graham has a viable path.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is, I guess I'm in John's will and I can get part of the estate, but I don't know where this will go, but I'm definitely going to look at it.
All right.
I think the world is falling apart, and I've been more right than wrong when it comes to foreign policy, but we'll see.
Don't know whether there's a chance that a man named Lindsey Graham...
Have you ever heard of a more BS answer, by the way, that we're not polling, but we set up a testing the waters committee?
Yeah.
What are you even talking about?
Yeah.
We're going to see if a guy like me, Lindsey Graham...
We're not sure where this is going to go, he said. I'm sure where it's going to go. Nowhere.
By the way, I have to point out...
Nowhere.
Someone called...
He's your U.S. senator. He's not mine.
Someone called and complained that I was making fun of Lindsey Graham and making fun of Southerners. I'm not. I'm from South Carolina. I have the right. But, come on. This guy... We're going to see if a man like Lindsey Graham has a shot here.
You make him sound so good, Peter.
All right. And there you go. As you pointed out, Mitt Romney has stolen a lot of fire. The Republican National Committee was having its winter meeting in San Diego over the weekend. And Mitt Romney, who lives, of course, in La Jolla, next door, he shows up and he says, yep, look, we can win with Mitt in 2016.
We can win in 2016 as a party, in the House, in the Senate, and in the White House.
And the key question is, will my wife let me run?
Most frequently asked question I get is, what does Ann think about all this?
I love this.
And she believes that people get better with experience.
God.
And
Come on, crowd.
Oh, come on.
Crowd, give the
This is
penny
funny.
applause, for
Come on.
God's
heaven
sake,
knows
at
I have
least.
experience running for president.
Yeah, heaven knows I have a lot of experience running for president. Yeah, we all know that, Mitt. And we all know, as Rupert Murdoch said, he was a terrible candidate. It's painful.
My wife believes I should have the opportunity to embarrass myself publicly again.
Painful. You know, I think, look, Mitt and Ann Romney welcomed over the weekend their, are you ready for this? 23rd grandchild, okay? They have 23 grandchildren.
Oh, my God.
That's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Mitt, forget about the White House, right? Take care of your grandkids. That's what heaven wants you to do. I know. I'll be back with a parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, you know, there's been so much controversy about how the role of President Lyndon Baines Johnson is portrayed in the movie Selma, that maybe, like me, you were tempted not to go see it. Well, having seen it yesterday, let me tell you, here's my advice. Don't stay home. Run to see Selma as soon as you can. It's one of the best and most powerful movies I've seen in a long time, maybe forever. Above all, it's a masterful portrayal of Martin Luther King Jr. and his determined leadership of the civil rights movement. It's such a tragedy that David Oyelowo, who plays King so beautifully, was not nominated for Best Actor. And as for the portrayal of LBJ, yeah, for the sake of building up tension, it probably shows him more irascible than he really was, unnecessarily so. But in the end, LBJ still comes across as a hero of the civil rights movement, which he is. Selma, the movie. Go see it. Today, happy Martin Luther King Day. Come back and see us again tomorrow.
This
we'll be looking
is
for
the
you.
Bill Press Show.